everyone, and welcome back to Your Year of Tarot. This is lesson 3 of our journey diving into the wonders that are the tarot. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the two main fundamental parts of a tarot reading. That's the shuffle and the spread. We're going to look at different aspects that go into both of these areas. I'm also going to give you spreads that you are going to be using throughout this entire course. So, get your deck, get comfy and get cozy, and let's look at shuffling and spreads. There are lots of things that you can do around your own tarot reading practice. So some people will choose incense and candles, rituals to kind of get you into the space, openings and closings before a tarot reading, and they're all valid. Later on down the line in this course, I'm going to teach you how to incorporate more aspects into a tarot reading. But the two main fundamental parts to do a reading is to shuffle your cards and perform a tarot spread. That is it. So we're going to really look in and tear apart these two parts of a reading. These are your fundamental basic parts of a reading. So we're going to start with part 1, the shuffle. The first thing we need to do is shuffle our deck. So this serves both a practical and a spiritual aspect. You can choose just to use the practical aspect, you can choose to use the spiritual aspect. It's completely up to you, this is your practice. The practical aspect of shuffling your deck is of course mixing up all of your tarot cards. This is so that we're not pulling the exact same spread over and over and over again. With a very well shuffled deck, any repeating patterns or repeating cards that come up are a lot more significant than with a poorly shuffled deck. For me, being able to shuffle really well is very important because I do events with back-to-back readings. I need to make sure my cards are well mixed up so I'm not reading the previous person's cards on the next person. And then any similarities or themes that come up are more because they were meant to come up, not because I shuffled really poorly. There are many ways to shuffle the cards. And this depends on, firstly, do you want to read reversals or not? When you have a tarot card, it is face upright, and that is the meaning. It is a personal choice whether or not you want to read a reversal, which is when a card is this way up, and it changes the meaning of the card slightly. You do not have to read reversals if you don't want to. There are plenty of tarot practitioners out there that are really good at what they do, and they don't read reversals because they don't find it helpful. I am someone that does read reversals. So you want your shuffling technique to be based on whether or not you want to read reversals. If you're doing the basic, the classic, the overhand shuffling technique, then all of the cards are always going to be the same way up. There are lots of fancy ways that you can shuffle cards. A lot of them I can't do. But this is a really good way to start learning to shuffle cards. You are going to find the way that feels most comfortable for you. How I like to personally shuffle cards, I like a very classic mix all of the cards up in the space and then put them back together in a pile and then split the deck. That is how I like to shuffle cards. You've got to shuffle in a way that feels most comfortable to you. That's the practical aspect of shuffling. You can go online and you can look up loads of different ways people choose to shuffle cards. I saw a girl on TikTok this morning throw them all in the air and just catch the one that she wanted to read. The idea of cleaning up that many cards off the floor stresses me out, but if it works for you, go for it. When we shuffle cards, sometimes our cards might jump. Now, that means when we're shuffling, a card has fallen out. Some people choose to shuffle and only read the cards that jump. That is perfectly valid. If you want to shuffle and just let however many cards you want jump out and just read those, you absolutely are able to do that. It is up to you whether or not you want to read the card that jumped. This is something that is based on instinct and intuition. If you feel that, you know what, that was just a really bad shuffle on my part, you don't need to read the jumping card. Put it back in and continue shuffling. If you be like, that feels significant before you even look at the card, put it to one side and you can use it in your spread. It is your choice to use a jumping card. Now that, whether or not to use it, is a gut instinct, intuition kind of feeling. If you're someone who at the moment you kind of struggle with that intuition or gut feeling kind of thing, maybe it feels slightly too uncertain to you, I would say do not read jumping cards for now. Until you get used to that feeling of shuffling, that intuition that tells you whether or not this is a card that you are meant to read, don't read the jumping cards if you'd like that as an answer for you. But if you're pretty good with your intuition, it's up to you to decide whether or not those cards are meant to be there. That is the practical aspect of shuffling. There is a spiritual side to shuffling as well that you can choose to take or leave. I really like to use the spiritual side of shuffling. You can also just use this as a moment to let the person you're reading for, whether it is someone else or yourself, sink into that moment and become present and very focused on what it is that they want out of the reading. Some people use that moment during a shuffle to commune with spirits, to commune with guides, to ask questions. Some people really focus in on a particular feeling, a particular concern that maybe they're looking for an answer from. When I'm doing a reading for someone else, I ask them to shuffle like so, to mix up all the cards, and then I ask them to really focus on what it is they want out of the reading. Is it a feeling that they want clarity on? Is it a burning question about, is now the right time for something? Is it that there's a block that you just can't lift? Really focusing and putting yourself in that headspace that is what you want the answer to helps you center into the moment. If you're asking for help from others for your reading, such as spirits, such as guides, whatever works for you, then this is the time to allow them to come into your space. You can use the shuffle as a meditative practice, as a way to get you into a space and into a headspace ready to do a reading. Some people also choose to use shuffling as almost a cleansing act, as a way to bring them into the space and to remove anything that's felt stagnant on them from the day, from the journey to the reading, whatever it is. You can use that spiritual part of the shuffle for anything, as a moment of meditative, reflective practice, or as a moment where you're asking for help from something other, something away from you. And that is okay. However you choose to go about the practical and spiritual aspects of the shuffle are completely yours to learn and to adapt over time. You do not need to stick to one style, and I don't recommend that you do. I recommend that you try as many different shuffling patterns and try different things while you're shuffling and just see what fits and what sits right with you in that moment. You'll learn over time and through practice the way that you want to perform this first part of a reading. The second part of a reading after we've shuffled is the tarot spread. When we're looking at a tarot spread, we are looking at two main factors. Firstly, the positioning of the card in the reading, and secondly, the meaning that is attributed to that position. So we're going to use a very easy example today so that you can see exactly what I mean. We're just going to be using the backs of the cards so that you don't confuse yourself with what's actually on the cards right now. The placement of the card has significance in the reading. As I show you some spreads, different placements are going to mean different things. What that card placement represents begins to tell us the story of our reading. Think of the placement of the card as the actual physical book. Think what the card represents as the chapters. So it's the different sections within what that represents. In this example, you have chosen to do a 3-card reading about money. Let's see what that would look like using solely the positioning of the cards and what they represent. You have chosen to do a reading about money and finance. In card position A, you have said that this placement represents your historical relationship with money. In position B, you have said that this card represents your current relationship with money. And in position C, this represents anything that you need to work on in your relationship with money to move forward. When you're reading the cards in these positions, you're not just reading what is on the card, you're reading where the card is. past, present, or future. This is your framework for your reading. So in this reading about money, let's say that I have drawn the Fool, a card about new beginnings, leaps of faith, and warnings of naivety. If I drew this card in the future position, this could mean that starting a new financial venture, whether a job, your own business, or an investment into something like education or training, would improve my relationship towards my finances. If I drew this card in the past, this is somewhere I've already been, and I am currently on that journey moving forward. The card meaning is the same, but the position in the reading has changed the context. When we then begin to build out of our spreads, the spaces between become important as well. So let's say that I have drawn the Fool in the past position, but something about this position doesn't feel quite right. So we decide to pull a clarifying card. These are cards that expand out that meaning and give us a little bit more information. So we've got the Fool in the past. Maybe I draw a clarifying card and I feel the need to put it underneath the Fool. So what were the feelings and actions underneath you deep down that maybe prompted this change? Or was that a symptom of the change? If I decided to draw a clarifying card and put it above the Fool, that's physically what things are pushing down on you. So when we are filling out our reading, we are filling the gaps between the cards. So then maybe in our reading, we decide we need to fill a gap. We can then read a clarifying card between the present and the future. So this is telling us how we're going to get there. So the gaps and the positioning of the card become important in that story we're trying to tell. With those few extra clarifiers, that 3-card reading just became a 6-card reading. And this is something you can keep building out until the deck is empty. But through this, we are filling the gaps in our reading for things that don't feel right, for things that don't sit right with us, and that we need to get a bit more clarity on. Card placement can be methodical and very carefully chosen, or card placement can be intuitive. The way I personally like to do readings is a blend of both. The spread I choose will always be methodical. The clarifiers will then be intuitive. This is something that comes with practice and time. You can choose what all of the gaps mean, or maybe you're pulling out clarifiers and suddenly a shape evolves, and then in hindsight you understand what the gaps mean. Both of those approaches are valid. I'm going to show you 3 very basic spreads, a 3-card, a 4-card, and a 5-card, that you can start learning and adapting throughout this course. By learning these 3 very well, learning how to pull clarifiers for them, you can then adapt any kind of spread, because the bigger the spreads get, the more confusing it can be for a beginner to learn card placement. If you learn it well with 3, 4, and 5 cards, you learn how to pull out clarifiers and you learn what the spaces and the positioning of these cards mean, you're going to have a much easier time when it comes to reading the very big, quite famous spreads. The first one is a very simple 3-card draw. As we've just seen, 3 cards is 1, 2, and 3. When it comes to turning a card over, some people like to use the short edge and flip them on the short edge of the card. The problem with that is if you choose to read reversals, then you're flipping the card. I like to flip the card on the long edge because I read reversals, so I'm always getting the card in the way up that it showed. The most common use for 3-card spread is past, present, future. But you can basically use any 3-step process for the 3-card reading. This is probably one of the most adaptable spreads that you can do because you can have any kind of meaning for these 3 cards. But you could also choose to do something like allocate a place, home, work, friends. So it could be anything to you for these 3 cards. The beauty of a 3-card spread is in its simplicity, it is so adaptable. And it's also a really easy spread for you to start learning all of those gap-filling placement cards and clarifiers. I highly recommend getting really good at a 3-card spread if you can. The second spread we're going to do is a 4-card spread. This is called the compass. This is probably the most common spread that I do when I'm reading for others. A lot of people come to me for readings because they're feeling lost in something. A compass to show your way home is a very comfortable, often quite a fun reading. There is a card in the south, a card in the east, a card in the west, and a card in the north. You can adapt the meaning of the placement cards to mean different things based on your own situation. The most common compass spread, using the south card to represent where you are right now. What is that feeling of being lost kind of rooted in? What is directly behind you? Where have you just come from? What are we forgetting to look at, or what are we avoiding? In the east, where are we going? What is right on the horizon? What is immediately in front of us? What are the paths that maybe we're getting a little confused at? And then in the north, the next move that you need to make. You can adapt the compass to feel most comfortable for you. Maybe each point on the compass represents a different area of your life that you're struggling with. Maybe this is your physical, maybe in the south it is your physical world. Maybe in the west it is your mental world. Maybe in the east it's your creative world. And maybe in the north it's your ambition. Some people like to draw a fifth card right in the middle of the compass to kind of tie the reading together, or to represent themselves, their overarching feelings. The compass is also a really lovely spread to start building out. Other easy 4-card spreads include the elements, which is where each corner is a different element and a different area of your life. Maybe your creativity, your home, your work, your spirituality. Or the path of the rising sun if we're looking at a journey from rising in the east to setting in the west. For our 5-card spread, we are looking at the cauldron. The cauldron starts with 3 cards right at the surface. These are what is bubbling just beneath you. Maybe these are patterns of behavior, maybe these are thought processes, maybe these are concerns that you have, but these are very close to the surface. You're probably very aware of them, and they are affecting how you're feeling right now. And then the 2 cards at the bottom, 4 and 5, are what is deep down. These are possibly very subconscious things that maybe you're not aware of. Maybe they are historical things that have happened to you. You can ascribe whatever meaning feels best to you for the cards at the top versus the cards deep down. You could also use these as psychology prompts. You can have different archetypes attributed to different meanings. A great way to fill out this spread is to fill your cauldron, and that is you're imagining your big cauldron shape, and you're starting to draw cards between the two, finding your links, finding how your life is all tied together in this big cooking cauldron of experience. When you know 3, 4, and 5 card readings, very foundational readings, really well, when it comes to then looking at the big, really famous spreads, the Celtic Cross, the Horseshoe, the Zodiac Wheel, they will feel a lot less overwhelming. They'll feel a lot more intuitive and a lot easier to do when you understand how a 3, a 4, and a 5 card reading works, because everything then is just expanding out in the exact same way. I want you just to focus in on these ones for now. Towards the end of the course, we're going to be looking at expanding your readings out. We're going to be looking at troubleshooting aspects in your readings as well. So don't get too in the weeds with all of the different spreads. Use the 3 card, the 4 card, and the 5 card while you're learning. Homework. Are you ready for this week's homework? It's a fun one. You are going to create your own 3, 4, or 5 card tarot spread. Here's what you're going to do. Either wherever you're at right now, or going out for a walk in nature, or even scrolling on your phone, find something that catches your eye and draw an outline of it. It does not need to be pretty. It does not need to be accurate. But then you are going to get either 3, 4, or 5 tarot cards, and you're going to place them within that outline and ascribe a meaning to them. Then you're going to name your tarot spread. You maybe on a walk to work, you saw this beautiful ornate window. So you drew the picture of the window and put the cards in each pane, and then ascribed a meaning to the card based on the theme of the item. Maybe you go out for a nature walk and you see a frog, and you make a card spread called The Frog. It's completely up to you. Have fun with it. There is no right or wrong way to do it. but only use 3, 4, or 5 cards. It does not need to look like the thing that you saw either. Don't get hung up in the weeds. That this card is inspired by something in your everyday life. If you choose to do this, you'll also get to work with this spread throughout our course as well. This is going to start teaching you how to make tarot spreads. They can be intuitive, they can be methodical, but it is a thing everyone needs to start learning. So, make your own tarot spread. You can choose to share it on Instagram and tag me and I'll share it so that everyone can see it. If you are in the Mugwort or Linden tiers of our Patreon, you can share it in our private chat so that we can see everyone's really cool spreads. Or if you want to talk about it more, you can get one-to-one mentoring with me through my website. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Go make a tarot spread. And I will see you next week where we're going to look at the elements in tarot. I need to record the B-roll now, doo-da, doo-da. I need to record the B-roll now, gonna have more coffee. Oh no. Card, you are reading